Okay, so I'm making a short video series about a budget daily driver that you can like, and this is coming from my experiences in the Navy. When I would have friends that would go and they'd get promoted or whatever and get their paycheck, get a raise, and I would always be so frustrated because they would go buy a car, usually spending a lot of their paycheck on these cars, and I would say, hey, you can save so much money. Um, buy an old BMW or buy an old Mercedes and work on it yourself. And they'd say, man, I wish I could, but I can't. It's too expensive. I don't know what I'm doing. I don't have any tools. And if I get a car that's like 10 years old and I go to work on it, then all the money that I'm saving and not having a car payment, I'm going to spend on mechanic bills and everything, and it's going to break down on me and all this kind of stuff. Um, and there's a lot of conventional wisdom there that says, like, if you have a car that's over 10 years old, it's going to break down, and you might as well just get a new one because it's so expensive. These old cars are so expensive, you might as well spend that money on a new car. Um, and in my experience, that has not been the case. Yes, old cars can be pretty expensive, but I've been working on my own cars for about 12 years. I'm not that great at it. I'd say I'm like a 4 out of 10 mechanic. I got there quick and I stayed there. I've done a lot of very simple projects over time, but I like taking cars apart. I like parting them out. I like tinkering with stuff, but only when I want to. I'm not a professional mechanic. Um, and almost everything I've learned through the forums and through YouTube and everything. And I've met a lot of really good people doing it and developed a lot of cool skills. There's lots of like fringe benefits there for me that I've enjoyed. So really, what I wanted to do, it's always been in the back of my mind to make a couple YouTube videos about how would I go look for a used car, and when problems came up, how would I solve them? How would I be resourceful? And make the case that if you put in time and effort beyond just going to a CarMax and buying a car, if you do want to be resourceful and kind of have it all, in a way you can. So I would say that what I'm looking for in a car, I want a car that's going to be, relatively reasonably reliable. Um, Again, you got Uber and stuff if you have to, and I live by a 2-car rule, which means I take some risks and I always have a second car to get to work if I have to. It's not an embarrassing car, so it looks decent. It's probably a comfortable sedan, one that you can double date and or go to a job interview and not be embarrassed about. So it doesn't have to be anything flashy or cool, but just like a nice, decent looking car you can be proud of, and one that's not super expensive. So we're probably looking at cars that are 10 to 15 years old, at the bottom of their depreciation curve, where people have owned them and enjoyed them and neglected them, and now they're taking them to mechanics who are charging $150 an hour to do labor, and they're saying, you know what, I'm done with this. So these cars are dirt cheap. And so examples would be like the E34 5 Series, which I'm very familiar with, and those are getting kind of old now, but that's the BMW 5 Series from 88 to 95. I've gone through a bunch of those, and I love them. I've gone through a bunch of E39 5 Series, which are 96 to 2003, so really good cars. I'd avoid the V8 personally, but I like those a lot. I've gone through a few of those. I don't know much about Mercedes, but I'm sure Mercedes are also great candidates for this. I'm sure a bunch of Lexuses, probably some Acuras. Although I prefer rear-wheel drive, not only for the driving characteristics, but also because usually the engines, they're a lot more easy to work on because you don't have the transmission and the transaxle or whatever and the engine crammed in the front. So actually these BMWs that I work on have a surprising amount of room up front, usually. Pretty simple to work on. Okay, so I've been thinking about doing this for a long time, making a video about it, making my case, and a car came up for sale the other day that I thought was a good candidate. So I was browsing Facebook Marketplace and I found a 2004 BMW 530i, which is what I'm sitting in right now. If you can tell, and probably the title gives it away, right? This is a car with 170,000 miles about. It was put up for sale for $1,500, and I contacted the seller, and they said that the transmission had failed. So they got a transmission fault. They pulled over, turned the car off, tried to get it to go away. It wouldn't go away. They had it towed to AAMCO. AAMCO looked at it, so they couldn't fix it. Had it towed back home, then the car wouldn't start. So you put the key in, nothing in the lights, nothing. So I made the decision to go and look at the car. It's white on tan. It's decent, but it's pretty rough in the rear quarter, which I'll try to show you. The interior is it needs to be cleaned, but overall it's nice. So it's not totally clapped out, but it needs to be cleaned. And I was going, I'm going in there and I can't even test the engine. I mean, I don't know what works. So I say $1,000. Well, I went with 800, and they countered it at 1,000, and I accepted, figuring that maybe it's something simple and I'm lucky, and if not, I'll part it out, because I do run a small chop shop for fun, and I really enjoy parting cars out too. So I figured, why not jump into my first E60? So I know E34s really well. I know E39s really well. I've never done an E60, which is the 5 Series that comes after the E39. This is the 5 Series from 04 to 10. And I know a lot about the V8s, enough to stay away from them. But this has this early 530 has the same inline 6 from the E39. It has the M54B30, which I'm pretty familiar with. So that gave me a little bit of confidence. So I bought the car, and then the next day I went back to see if I could get it running. The leads on the battery were loose. Okay, so I tightened those up. I hooked it up to my old M5, which I daily drive right now, and it's a piece of trash. You'll probably see that later in different videos. I hooked up some nice jumper cables between my M5 and this. I had a spare battery in the trunk of this that I also hooked up with a set of jumper cables. Let it go for probably about 10 minutes before this thing was willing to jump. I got it started, and then I took it around the neighborhood to see what's going on, and then I'll cut into a video of me driving it home. Okay, we're limping at home. I think I'm stuck in second gear, about 3,500 RPM, trying not to be too much of a pain to the other drivers, but it's going. It's just not shifting. So if I'm doing damage to it, I've done it. So hopefully this isn't going to kill anything, and I can get back to the shop, avoid a tow, and get to diagnosing this. Okay, so I got the car home, put it in the garage, went back home and got on the computer and started looking up a few things, and came across a transmission reset procedure. So the next morning, showed back up to the car, had a cup of coffee with me, and figured I would give it a go. We were able to hook up the battery, jump it, and drive it home in limp mode, I think in second gear. And so I've gone online and I've looked up a few different procedures for resetting the transmission control module. So again, like I'm not familiar with this at all. I'm just doing what anybody else would do. You have an issue and you Google it. So I Googled some stuff, and the next thing I'm going to try to deal with this transmission fault code, to see if I'm very lucky, is to do this reset. And they said to put the key in ignition 2, which would be right before you start it, and then accelerator down for 30 seconds. Okay, lift off the gas, key back and out, door open, closed, and then start it up. Passenger restraint system. No transmission warning lights. But again, I mean, I don't really know what I'm doing. That's kind of the whole point of this, is to go through this as I would, without a script or without a whole bunch of knowledge. So I'm going to turn off the video and then take it for open the garage door and take it for a drive. seat warmers too. Let's see. Well, I have that running, but you guys can't see anything out the windshield. I wonder if there is a way to get that push on that. Oh, there we go. Oh, nice. That wasn't unsafe at all. Okay, coming up on this road. And this should be here if it shifts into third. Okay, shift in second. And then we're into third. Well, that can't be right. There's no way it was that easy to just buy a car, jump start it, and then reset the transmission module. But I'm pretty pleased. I mean, this is pretty good. I think so. Look, something caused that transmission fault to go off, right? So I don't know if it's a low fluid issue, if this thing has a fluid leak. I haven't been underneath of it yet. Maybe the fluid was low and the previous owner took a corner really fast and it threw a code. I mean, I really don't know. So I'm gonna expect there to be an issue. Oh, and there goes the camera. Oh no, I'll keep talking. I'm gonna expect there's gonna be an issue down the road, something I gotta fix. But hopefully this means it's much less likely to be a catastrophic transmission failure, and it will be something maybe simple that I can work on. So this is very good news. Very, very happy with this. All right, now since I took that video, I've driven the car probably about 20 miles. It is shifting kind of weird. I don't really know much about automatics, and that's not like a humble brag, you know, like I prefer to drive manuals. One, because they're way more enjoyable, and two, transmissions don't break like they do in an automatic. I mean, you'll have failures with a manual, but half the time you can still just like, you know, either drive it without the clutch pedal or skip a gear if you lose a gear. So I much prefer manuals. So I don't really know. I'm not confident in saying what I think is wrong with the automatic, but there's definitely something weird. I don't know if it's a fluid issue or one of the sensors that, like I've heard that the camshaft position sensor can send it bad signals. Anyway, so I've got a lot of research to do there. Okay, yeah, I've been going through this thing and I like it. I like it a lot. I'm surprised at how much I like this thing. I really wish it were manual. No, then I'd be much happier if it were. But all four windows work, which being a BMW guy, like that's pretty rare. I think most cars these days, like more than 10 years old, the plastic's starting to go on the window regulators and everything. So all the windows roll up nice and smooth. The seats are heated with lumbar, like two-way lumbar or something. It's got a nice glass moonroof. The rear seat is comfortable. I like it. Let me get the camera off and go around while I'm... Okay, the first thing, I mean, I've gone through and cleaned the steering wheel a bit. That's the first thing that I did. It had a pretty bad steering wheel cover on it, but I like the dash. I like the angles of it and everything more than I would have thought. I really enjoy the old BMW design, like E28s, E21s, E34s, E24s. I mean, E32s. I'll go sit in an E32 in a junkyard and just enjoy it. But this thing is nice. I don't like whatever they have on the plastic here. And I know my brother has an E90, and the plastic seems to go. So that button needs to be replaced, and then I don't know if you got to pull this plastic off and repaint it, or what the solutions are for that. And a little bit of gunk, you know, coming up here on the center console, and also on the door panels. So if I go over and look there, that's coming up. So that might be something to address. But honestly, I mean, again, this is a budget daily driver that's nice. So little details like that, I'm not gonna go crazy over stuff like that. This is just, I mean, I'm trying not to clean it so I can videotape the condition that this thing is in. So again, I mean, we're looking for a car that we can kind of buy on the cheap and then rescue and make into a nice daily driver. So here's some before pictures. And then the back seat, I've got a bunch of junk in the back already, a bunch of clothes. But this thing is, I'm really enjoying it so far. Okay, so I've always kind of stayed away from E60s. But the more I learn about this one, the more I like it. I'm a lot more confident that it has the inline six that I'm used to. I think the other, like N62, gets a bit more complicated. The 535i I might stay away from. The V8s I might stay away from. I really like the simple, economical inline six. So I'm glad that this one has that engine. I think, I'm excited to see what I can do with this car with just a little bit of effort and go through it. So I need to go back, and first order of business is going to be to figure out how to pull codes. So I'm used to OBD1 stuff, onboard diagnostics 1, which is more easy to use but doesn't help you as much. So it's not as complicated a system, but there's benefits in having the more complicated OBD2 stuff because it will tell you more if you know how to use it. I don't know how to use it, so that's my first thing I have to figure out, is get into the INPA BMW software so I can figure out why this is giving me maybe some transmission problems, or why the seatbelt light is on, and how to go about fixing those. It says it has a service engine soon light on, so I have to figure that out. I do know the engine has a pretty big valve cover gasket leak, which is very common, especially on the M54. Almost every inline six BMW I've ever bought, I've gone ahead and done the valve cover gasket right when I get it, along with fluids and filters, spark plugs. I'll get the cabin air filter for this thing, and just kind of try to baseline it, which means just get everything stock and working how it should be. I've driven it, like I said earlier, probably 10, 15, 20 miles, and the exhaust is bad. It's got some drone. I don't know if they deleted the cat or the resonators or something, but it does not sound good. I don't like it. I want to put it back to stock. But no shimmy in the steering wheel. Drives smooth. No clunks, no bumps. Doesn't pull to one side. So I mean, I'm dodging lots of landmines here with a 170,000 mile supposedly neglected BMW. So somebody's been on top of maintenance with this thing. I think that's the only explanation. Maybe not the person I bought it from, but maybe whoever they got it from. So I think the next step is going to be making a to-do list for this thing.